like to welcome Steven Nederveen to Foster White Gallery. His exhibition, Between Worlds, is now on display. Steven, welcome to Seattle.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here, all the way from Toronto.
Yeah. Thanks for making the trip down.
Yeah.
This new collection of work is somewhat of a departure or a new direction for you. Could you speak a little bit about how you got here or how you arrived at this way of working?
Yeah, it's a lot of my work has a foundation of meditation. I have meditation practice behind it, and so the work is often informed by that. And often I sort of have been doing nature scenes and making them sort of illuminate in different ways. In this body of work, I am less focused on the landscape and more on the mental space, actually, of meditation. And so Between Worlds sort of speaks to the physical space of our world as well as the mental space. And sometimes there's a disconnect between these two things. So much so that they can seem like separate worlds.
That makes sense. Thanks for that. Is this combination of aura or color field with the imagery of the landscape, was that something you had in mind before you began to make it, or is it something that more evolves through practice in the studio?
It really evolved through a lot of practice. It's I made a lot of sort of bad paintings along the way, trying to find it, because of course dealing with just planes of color, which is very flat, and then landscape, which is perspective. It was very hard to find a way to marry the two. But yeah, so essentially was going after the expansiveness that of our oceans and of our physical world, and then trying to find expansiveness within us as well. So through meditation, I find that it's possible. So all the pieces have been named after a type of breath. So there's compassionate breath, abundant breath, these types of breath, and it's all to sort of bring you into your body and feel this expansiveness.
And so are those terms that you utilize in your practice, meditative practice as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's many types of guided meditations you can do that will focus on one of these characteristics. Yeah. So
Okay. And then would you like to speak a little bit about specific color? Are certain colors doing certain things here in these works?
Yeah, I think I could pick out two pieces in particular. There's compassionate breath and abundant breath. In compassionate breath, there's sort of this deep reddish, pinkish hue in the sky. And so I was thinking about, a compassionate breath or giving yourself compassion. Compassion is actually kind of a difficult thing to give yourself, actually, because most people are quite driven and kind of hard on ourselves. And so to allow yourself the compassion to sort of take the foot off the gas and being happy with where you are at, it's actually it makes for quite complex emotions. So I picked the color red to represent this. And if we take the word abundant breath, which is green on top, when I think of abundance, I often think of nature, and I think of growth and blooming So it's just this idea like this vibrant green.
Yeah.
That's why I picked that for abundance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And a lot of them do have warmth to them as well, which is really enjoyable. There's this one, just the one with the blue right here beside us.
Mm-hmm.
This has a very almost heavenly feeling of light coming through clouds and that sort of.
It's amazing how much light comes in that way.
There's one piece in particular, Eternal Breath, has vertical lines painted in there. And then on other pieces, the outside edge of the piece is painted as well. Could you speak a little bit about those decisions and what informed that?
Yeah, so I've been quite heavily influenced by Mark Rothko and Barnett Newman, these people that painted with planes of color from the 60s. And so I'm sort of borrowing a bit from their vocabulary, I would say. And I've seen Mark Rothko's work personally. I'm so moved by it that it, in fact, led me to meditation and led me to follow this path as well. So their influences have been quite big. And Barnett Newman used zips in his line, or these vertical lines, and Rothko did this kind of bordering around his colored blocks. And but both served sort of as, for me, they sort of serve as a gateway, as a window that you pass through, in a sense. And so the pieces vary between not having them and having them. And I think the ones that have them are sort of more deliberately about like passing through into your mind to find this vastness, whereas others are more the vastness built into the landscape.
Yeah. And then some of the pieces are closer to a traditional landscape scene. Is that maybe to maintain a connection with past work a little bit?
Yes. Yeah.
Photography and location have always been an important role in your work. Do you see yourself as a photographer? Do you always have a camera on hand?
I've always had my camera on hand. Yes, it's it's hard to answer than expected. I try and keep my work sort of grounded in reality. So having this sort of documentary style of photograph, real thing, and then painting areas out in order to sort of branch it out. And it's lets the imagination take over and then the rest of it.
Yeah.
So, but it's always sort of grounded.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay. Well, Steven's exhibition runs through January 25, 2025. We hope you can make it down to see the works. There will also be a guided meditation on January 11th at 11 a.m. We hope you can come and join us for that as well. Stephen, thanks again for the visit. And
Thank you for having
a
me.
wonderful exhibition. The gallery is glowing. And we'll leave it at that.